World War II wasn't won by the biggest army, or the fastest planes, or even the deadliest weapons. It was won by a silent machine, hidden in underground rooms, a technology so secret that even most soldiers didn't know it existed. A technology that could see enemies before they appeared, hear messages never meant to be heard, and turn chaos into control. This is the story of the technology that won the war long before the world ever knew its name. When we think of World War II, we picture dogfights in the sky and battleships on the sea. But the real war, the one that decided everything, was fought in darkness and silence. It began with a machine that could see in the dark. We call it radar. In 1940, during the Battle of Britain, the German Luftwaffe believed they could bomb Britain into submission, especially under the cover of night. They were wrong. While German pilots flew blind, a network of British radar stations painted a complete picture of the incoming attacks. Operators in dark rooms could see every enemy squadron, tracking their altitude, speed, and direction. This wasn't just about detecting planes. It was about making Britain invincible at night. Fighter pilots could be guided directly to their targets with pinpoint accuracy. The Blitz, meant to break the British spirit, instead ran into an invisible wall of technology. Britain survived not just because of courage, but because it could see its enemy coming from 100 miles away. But seeing the enemy was only half the battle. The other half was knowing what they were thinking. And for that, the Allies had to crack the most complex code ever created, the Enigma. The Enigma machine, used by the German military, was a marvel of engineering. With its spinning rotors and complex wiring, it could scramble a message into one of 159 quintillion possible combinations. That's 159 followed by 18 zeros. The Germans were so confident in Enigma that they believed it was absolutely unbreakable. They transmitted their most secret plans troop movements, U-boat locations, attack strategies, believing no one could ever read them. They underestimated the power of the human mind. Hidden away at a secret estate called Bletchley Park, a team of Britain's brightest minds was assembled. They weren't soldiers. They were mathematicians, chess champions, linguists, and crossword puzzle experts. Their leader was a quiet, eccentric genius named Alan Turing. This team wasn't fighting with guns. They were fighting with logic, patterns, and incredible intellect. Their mission was to do the impossible: break the unbreakable code. Every day, the German code settings would change at midnight, resetting the puzzle entirely. The team at Bletchley Park had only 24 hours to find the key before all their work became useless. It was a relentless race against time, using clever linguistic tricks, identifying patterns and repeated phrases, and exploiting procedural mistakes made by German operators. They began to find tiny cracks in Enigma's armor. They built massive electromechanical machines called bombs, designed by Turing to rapidly test thousands of possible rotor settings. These weren't computers, but they were the ancestors of them, a brute force approach to solving an intellectual puzzle. And then they broke it. Suddenly, the Allies could read German communications, often before the intended German commanders even received them. Imagine the power, knowing exactly where a U-boat pack was planning to strike, knowing the location of an entire panzer division, knowing the Luftwaffe's next bombing target. The codebreakers at Bletchley Park gave Allied commanders a godlike ability to see the enemy's hand. This intelligence, codenamed Ultram, was the war's most valuable secret. It was so secret that sometimes the Allies had to let an attack happen, sacrificing ships or troops just to avoid letting the Germans know that Enigma had been compromised. This intelligence war was happening on all fronts. While Bletchley Park listened to the airwaves, another technology is listening to the depths of the ocean. In the early years of the war, German U-boats, the infamous Wolf, they were the silent hunters of the Atlantic, and they were starving Britain into surrender. The weapon that defeated them wasn't a bigger ship or a faster torpedo. It was sound. Sonar, or what the British called ASTIC, sent out sound pulses or pings through the water. By listening for the echoes bouncing back, a sonar operator could detect a submerged object. They could determine its distance, its bearing, and its speed. A trained operator could even distinguish the sound of a U-boat's propellers from the sound of a whale. Suddenly, the U-boats were no longer invisible ghosts. Destroyers could hunt them systematically, dropping depth charges with terrifying accuracy. The hunters became the hunted, and the vital supply lines across the Atlantic were secured. The Battle of the Atlantic was won not by naval firepower alone, but by the ability to hear a submarine from miles away. As the war progressed, the sheer volume of information from radar, from ultra intercepts, and from sonar became overwhelming. To make sense of it all, another technological leap was needed. This led to the creation of the first modern electronic war rooms. In these command centers, information was plotted in real time on giant maps. The movements of friendly and enemy forces were tracked with unprecedented precision. This was the birth of situational awareness, the ability for a commander to see the entire battlefield at a glance and make decisions based on live, integrated data. It was the ancestor of every military command center you see today. But even with all this intelligence, the German High Command created an even tougher code for their most secret communications, a system called Tunny. It was far more complex than Enigma. To break it, the Bletchley Park team needed a machine that could think faster than any human. So they built one, led by an engineer named Tommy Flowers. They created Colossus, the world's first programmable electronic digital computer. This massive machine, filled with thousands of vacuum tubes, could read and analyze encrypted German messages at incredible speeds, performing calculations that would have taken mathematicians weeks to complete. Colossus was the secret weapon within the secret war, a machine built to defeat other machines. Its existence was kept secret for decades after the war, but it marked the true beginning of the computer age. All of this technology, radar, code breaking, sonar, and early computing converged for the most critical operation of the entire war. The invasion of Normandy was the largest amphibious assault in history, and its success depended entirely on intelligence and deception. Using their knowledge from Ultra, the Allies knew the exact strength and location of every German division in France. They created a phantom army, complete with inflatable tanks and fake radio traffic, to trick the Germans into thinking the invasion would happen upon. But the most crucial factor was the weather. The invasion required a full moon for airborne drops, low tide to expose beach obstacles, and calm seas. Using advanced meteorological data combined with intercepted German weather reports, Allied forecasters predicted a tiny 36-hour window of acceptable weather in the middle of a massive storm. General Eisenhower made the gut-wrenching decision to go based on that forecast. D-Day wasn't a gamble. It was a calculated move, made possible because technology had allowed the Allies to predict the future with just enough certainty. When you look back, you see that World War II was the first information war. For every bullet the Germans fired, the Allies had a piece of intelligence telling them when, where, and how it would be fired. It was a war won not by sheer force, but by a decisive advantage in information. The heroes of this war weren't just the soldiers on the front lines, but also the mathematicians, engineers, and analysts in hidden rooms who gave them the tools to win. World War II wasn't won in the sky or on the sea. It was won in secret rooms filled with glowing screens, spinning wheels, and brilliant minds that rewrote the future. Thanks for watching. If you found this story of hidden technology as fascinating as I do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next deep dive into history.